Hello, hello everyone, and welcome to the fifth video in this Python tutorial series. In this video, we will be talking about if statements and how to use them with the conditions we learned in the last video. So, if statements are basically just used for decision making and to decide between two options. So, how it works is you say if and then your condition that we learned in the last video. So, if that condition is true, then it will go on and do this, so it'll give us an output or do whatever we have here. So let's say let's just test this out. So let's say if 2 is equal to 2, then let's say print these two numbers are equal, and let's just see what this prints in the output. So if we just press run module, we'll see these two numbers are equal, print in the output. But what if we say 2 is equal to 3? So now this output is false. So we see nothing come up. Because how it works is it checks if this condition is true. And if the condition is true, then it goes ahead and does this line. But if the condition isn't true, then it just skips this line and goes to the next one. And so now let's just talk about the syntax when doing this. So what you do is first you type if, and then you type your condition, then you put a colon afterwards. So, and then on the next line, in most cases, it will automatically tab you. So if I just press enter, it automatically tabs me or indents my line to 4 spaces. So you usually just use tab, but you can also use 4 spaces in the future. So if you do not actually put these 4 spaces in, then you will be thrown in error. Because if this is true, Python won't know what to do next if you just put the code at the beginning of the line. As what Python reads is, it goes to the next line and it looks for indented code, because then it knows that this code is part of this. Otherwise, if we just go ahead and instead we write print these two numbers are equal over here and take this line away, we will get an error, as Python expects it to be indented after you have the colon, because it wants to know what to do if they are true and what to do if they're false. So now let's try getting user input and using it to see if something's true. So let's say let's store this input in variable age, and let's say input how old are you. So now what we want to do is we want to take that age and see if it's equal to, let's say, 20. And if that age is equal to 20, we'll say over here, you are 20 years old. So if we save this, how it works is it's going to take input and it's going to ask for our input on how old we are. And then after it gets that, it's going to check if our age is equal to 20. And if that's true, it will go ahead and do this indented line. But if that isn't true, then it'll just skip that code and go to the next clear line. So then we'll just say over here, print, you are not 20. So if we save this and run it this time, it asks us, how old are you? We are 10. It says you are not 20. Now let's run this again, and this time let's say we're 20, and it comes up with, you are not 20 again. And one of the reasons why it didn't print you are 20 years old is that when you're getting input from a user, it takes the input as a string. So when we get this age input from the user, we typed in 20. But what Python gives us back is, instead of the integer 20, so instead of this, it gives us a string 20. So this is not right, as we cannot have a string being equal to an integer. So what we do is we change the string to an integer, and how we do that is we type in int, and then we put brackets around what we want to change to a string. So now if we run this module, and we put 20 in again, enter, it prints you are 20 years old. But there's a problem. It also prints you are not 20. So what if we want it to print you are not 20 only if they are not 20 years old, not if they are also 20 years old? Well, this is where the else command comes in. So how this works is you don't indent this, and you just write else then a colon, and then you just indent the print statement. So what it does is, first it checks if this is true, and if it is true, it goes on and prints this. But if it isn't true, then it will print this. And it will not print this anyway. It will only print this if this statement is false. So if we save this again and press run module, this time we'll type 20 in again. And this time we don't see you are not 20. We just see you are 20 years old. So let's change this around. Let's say we are 21. You are not 20, and it works. But what if we want to say something if they're, let's say, 19 years old? Well, that's where the else if command comes in. So how this works is we say elif. So elif for else, if, and then we give our condition. So else if int age is equal to 19, and then we can say print you are 19 years old. And over here we'll just say you are not 20 or 19 years old. So what this does is first it checks if this is true, and then if that's not true, then it checks if this is true. And if this isn't true, then it just goes ahead and prints this. But it cannot print this and this, or it cannot print this statement and this statement. It only prints one of the three. So if we just save this, and this time we'll say we're 19 years old, okay? So we'll just say 19. And it comes up with you are 19 years old. So let's try this again, and we'll see if it actually works. And we'll say we're 18 this time. You are not 20 or 19 years old. So what you see is that, as I said before, it does not print these two statements also. It just prints one statement. So one more thing to know when coding in Python is you want to keep your code as neat and as short as possible. And there's one problem with our code. It's pretty neat, but we're writing int around age 2 times. I mean, it's not a lot right now, but in the future, if you start writing larger code, it might get into a hassle as you keep having to write int for something or other cases. So what we want to do is instead, we want to put int around the input. So the second it gets the user input, it changes it to an integer, not when it needs to be changed into an integer. So, because we don't need this output as a string, so we might as well just change it into an integer early on, as it will shorten up the code and make it neater for the future. So now if we run this, this will run exactly as normal again. So all you do is, instead of just putting the int around the age, we're putting it around the input. So we'll put 18 years old and you are not 20 or 19. And we'll run the module again, and this time we'll put 20. You're 20 years old. So another thing to remember is there's always going to be a shortcut when running code in Python or your other IDEs. So in Python itself, if you hover over run module, you see F5 come up. So instead of just pressing run module every time, we can go ahead and press function F5, and this time it asks us how old are you again, and this time I'll just type in 19, and it comes up with you are 19 years old. And it works perfectly fine. It's just in the future this could be easier for you. And another thing to know is commenting your code. So let's say somebody else is looking through your code and they don't know exactly what it does. Well, this is where commenting comes in Python. So commenting your code is basically saying that I don't want this code being read by the interpreter. So the interpreter would be Python. And how you do this is you put a hashtag before the line, and then you say this gets the user's age. And what this does is this is a note to ourselves or other people that this line will get the user's. Moreover, we can also comment and put the comment over here, as this section of the line will not be commented out, as only everything after the hashtag symbol gets commented out. So we can put it over here. So you will not be able to add any code after this hashtag sign, but the code over here will not be commented out, and the code on the next line will not be commented out. So I believe that you should always put hashtags in your code and comment your code. So if other people do look at your code, or if you go back over it a second time, you will know where everything is and what is happening in the code in case you forget. So now to the last thing we're going to talk about in this video, and that is how to use multiple conditions in one if statement. So how you do this is you can say if age is equal to 20, or age is equal to 19. So we can just go ahead and take the else if command away for now, and we can say or age is equal to 19, and then we can say you're 20 or 19 years old. And if we run this and press run module, How old are you? Let's say 19 first. You're 20 or 19 years old. So now if we press function F5 again, how old are you? We'll say 20 this time. You're 20 or 19 years old. And it works. Another thing you can do is you can use, instead of and, because instead of or, you can use and. Because right now or checks if either this or this is true. And then if one of them is true, it goes on to doing this. But instead of that, we can use the and command. I know it doesn't make any sense in this case, so we'll just copy this code again, and we'll say age 1. How old are you? So let's say, how old is your dog? And then after this, we can say if age is equal to 20 and age 1 is equal to, let's say, 4. If we save this and run, now it will ask us both for age 1 and age. So how old are you? 20. How old is your dog? 4. And if we save this, it says you are 20 or 19 years old. As over here, we haven't told it to print anything about the dog, but it says print you are 20 or 19 years old. So in the future, you can just go ahead and pick this up. So you can say you are 20 years old and your dog is 4 years old. So that will be all for this video. I hope you learned something new. Please like the video, subscribe, and in the next video, we will be talking about for loops.